Your husband continuing to drink, whatever that looks like, whether he's a take it or leave it drinker or a problem drinker, does not determine what you do. The longer you try to make his choices an excuse, the longer you're going to stay stuck in your own relationship with alcohol. Welcome to the Shannon McCabe Show, where we break free from our drink-obsessed culture, challenge the myths around alcohol, and redefine sobriety as the empowering choice it truly is. I'm Shannon McCabe, sober coach, holistic nutritionist, and your guide to a life that feels better without booze. Whether you're newly sober, sober curious, or years into this journey, this podcast is here to give you the truth about alcohol, the tools to build lasting confidence, and the hope that a vibrant, fulfilling life is waiting for you on the other side. So grab your coffee or sparkling water and let's dive in. Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Shannon McCabe Show podcast. I'm really pumped about today's topic, and I have a feeling this is going to be like the first of a couple episodes that end up coming out on this, because today we're going to be chatting about the question I get, probably the second most frequent question. The first one is always like, how did you do it? How did you quit drinking? When I share my story about how at the end of my drinking, I was hiding it in my house. I was sneaking drinks everywhere, staying up most nights drinking alone. People always want to know, like, what did I finally do? How did I quit? And I've talked about that. The second question I get is, how do I quit if my husband still drinks? Because also, you guys, that was part of my journey. My husband does still drink. My husband is one of these people that I think are unicorns, honestly, the people that really can just have one or two and then be done. Alcohol takes up zero space in his mind. He is fine going weeks or even a month or two without taking a drink. And if he does have a drink, he can sip one drink over the course of like an hour or two, which still makes zero sense to me. But back to the point, this is a conversation that comes up so often, especially with the women that I work with in my coaching groups one-on-one. And so I want to start talking about it today, okay? Because this is the thing. This question, the situation of, I want to quit drinking, but my husband still drinks. It is very easy for us to use this as kind of an excuse as to why we can't even try to quit, or if we do try to quit, why it never works. And so I am absolutely, again, today, you guys, showing up as your sober best friend, as a person who loves you and cares about you, but is going to kind of push you to the edge of looking at how you're approaching this and making sure that you're not making excuses, that you're not tipping over into that victim mindset and letting whatever is going on with your husband influence what you know you need to do for yourself, okay? So if you are asking yourself this question, how can I quit if my husband still drinks? I want you to know that you're not alone. You're not alone. This comes up for so many of us. And I also want you to know that, no, this does not mean that your marriage is going to fall apart or change negatively just because you quit drinking. Okay. Now, obviously I can't guarantee that, but it's not likely that that's what's going to happen. Like all things in quitting drinking, one of the things you guys hear me say all the time is we can get really nervous about this stuff that is going to be different. And we assume that that means it's going to be bad. But you guys, there's no reason to assume that this change has to be nothing but negative for your marriage, okay? So let's start talking about this today, because what I really want to touch on is helping you understand that this journey is for you. This needs to be about you and for you before it can be about anything else. Early sobriety really requires like this deep ownership over our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions. And when I say this needs to be for you and about you, it applies directly to what we're talking about today. Like, yes, we can quit drinking because maybe our husband is concerned about us. Maybe our kids are concerned about us. Maybe our constantly breaking promises and losing trust. And so we know that we want to quit drinking to show up better for our family. But that can't be the number one reason why we're doing it. So taking deep ownership over your decision to quit drinking means that this has to be about you first and foremost. We have to be selfish, but it's in a good way, because we have to do this for ourselves so that the reactions or actions, the support or the not support from people around us don't derail us. We can't rely on other people to support us and carry us through this, because that's not fair. It's not fair to them or to us. So when I say early sobriety requires deep ownership, it's just calling a spade and saying that you're not quitting for your husband, even if maybe he has expressed concerns about you drinking, or maybe he hasn't at all. We're going to talk about both of those situations today, but you need to be doing this for you, regardless of what the other people in your life say. or don't say or how they respond, okay? So how this usually comes up, and when most women are concerned about how quitting drinking is going to change their relationship with their husband. And again, I feel this, you guys, because this was so me. This was so my story. My husband and I are college sweethearts, okay? We met when he was 18 and I was 19. And we're from Wisconsin, you guys. So if you've heard me talk about this, like drinking is absolutely, at least in our generation and the generations before us, it's a rite of passage growing up here, right? Like we both started drinking in high school. We had years of social drinking under our belts before we even met in college. And then drinking was absolutely a part of our college experience. It has been a part of our relationship from day one. So fast forward then to when my drinking became a problem, but his was never a problem. Me trying and not being able to figure out how to quit for so long, but then finally figuring out that I really did need to quit drinking altogether. I could not figure out how to moderate. I cannot, because I'm not a take it or leave it drinker. I understand how terrifying it is to think, but what is this even going to look like? Because alcohol had become a part of our routine. It had become a staple of date night. It had become a staple of getaways when we could get away from the kids, right? It had become a staple of like a romantic life and our social circle and how we hung out with our friends and families and everything. So I get that thinking about changing that brings a world of emotions. And yes, most of them feel really heavy and scary, right? Because we talk about like, you're going to have to go down a road of grieving, probably recognizing that the things you did in the past, you're not probably going to do anymore. And that can be scary and that can be sad. But that's when we need to actively remind ourselves that it doesn't mean the new things you do won't be as awesome or as wonderful or bring you as close, but they are going to be different. And so it takes some trial and error to figure that out. But I want you to recognize that thinking about quitting drinking and then thinking about all of the ways this is going to impact your relationship, yes, it can feel confusing and it can feel stressful and it can feel tense. And that's so normal, you guys. It's so normal. But I really implore you to understand that it is temporary. The really like acute, intense, heavy emotions you feel in this beginning phase of quitting drinking, this is not how it stays forever. This is not how it stays for very long. When you continue down this path, you're going to find that in just a couple months, you're getting clarity on these things. You and your spouse will navigate this, okay? There's no one size fits all approach though, because every marriage is different. Every relationship is different. So you're going to have to figure this out for yourself. It's very much an example of another saying that I say all the time is that the only way through is through. Don't try to predict how this is going to go or how it's going to feel for you. The only way to figure it out is to just go through it and take it one situation at a time and take it one day at a time. Okay. So let's talk about how this is going to look or how this could look, how this feels for you is maybe a better way to say it. How this feels depending on like which one of two camps your husband falls into. Because typically our spouses fall into one of two categories. Your husband might either be like mine, where he is a take it or leave it drinker. Alcohol is really not a big deal to him. So that right there feels like it's causing friction and tension because he likely doesn't understand why you can't just moderate like he can moderate, right? Or why you can't just have one or two, why you can't just drink on weekends. So that's the one kind of drinker. The second kind of drinker is maybe your husband is actually more like you. Maybe he is struggling with his own drinking, but he is not ready to face it yet. Like he might still be in outward denial over it. He might be aware, but just kind of be like, whatever, this is what we've always done. I'm not going to change. We're going to talk about how you can navigate both of those. Okay. So for the first one, let's go to the take it or leave it drinker. Because you guys, like I said, this is very much my lived experience, still my experience. My husband to this day still drinks sometimes because he absolutely is a person that can open a beer and sip it slowly over 2 hours. And I just honestly don't even see the point of that. If you've listened to these episodes, you've heard me say that. Like I still just don't even see the point of drinking that way. But that shows the difference between my brain and his brain. So if your husband is a person that is a take it or leave it drinker, what is likely to be happening in this early stage of your decision to quit drinking is that your husband probably doesn't really understand what you're going through and doesn't understand the struggle. And so this is what I experienced when I figured out that moderation was not going to work for me. I had started to learn enough about our brain and how there really are two types of drinkers. There are the quote unquote normal drinkers, the people that can have one or two, walk away. They don't think about drinking when they're not drinking. Or there's the people like me, likely the people like you, if you're listening to this podcast, where drinking has become like an all-consuming thing in our life. We're plotting our drinking, we're planning our drinking, we're recovering from our drinking. When we're not drinking, it's because we're trying to not drink. And so we are still actively giving a lot of thought to alcohol. People that are not like that have a hard time understanding it. So my husband could be very supportive, like he wanted to support me, but he didn't really have a sense of understanding or an appreciation for what I was going through, okay? So what I figured out early on is that it was going to be easier for both of us if I didn't try to explain too much about my reality unless he was like genuinely curious and wanted to know, okay? And because this is one thing, it can be easy to think that like if they don't want to know more about what drinking is like for you or what your struggle has been, you can be inclined to think that that means that they don't care. And that's not the case at all. It's just, it's kind of foreign to them. Because like I said, people that don't have this preoccupation, people that actually do have an off switch, people that can just have a drink and be done, people that don't have a drink and are instantly thinking about the next one or two or three drinks, honestly, they just kind of sometimes don't want to talk about it. They're like, I don't get it. And so don't confuse that as like a lack of empathy or a lack of caring. So it's really important, I think, to not try to over-explain too much unless your spouse really wants to know. And that might come in fits and starts, right? They might be really interested one day and then the next day they might not be. So this is one of the first examples of where you have to have an ownership over this journey for yourself. Trying to make your husband understand every single thing that's happening in your head right away is going to probably just make you really frustrated. So save your energy. Don't over-explain unless it seems like they really, really want to know. Next thing though is don't be afraid to set boundaries if you need to, okay? Because this is typically pretty important, especially early on. When you are trying to change your habits, you are trying to step out of the associating 4 p.m. every day with a glass of wine, or associating every date night with like a free-for-all drinks, associating every weekend away with getting drunk. Set boundaries where you need to, okay? So this is going to look different for everybody. But examples, like when I quit drinking, I made sure that we didn't have any liquor in the house or alcohol in the house. That was my usual normal go-to drink, right? So for me, this was keeping wine out of the house. For us, that worked because my husband was not a wine drinker. He only drank wine because I drink wine. So it was really easy for me to say, we're just not going to have wine in the house. And he was fine with it. I did go as far as to also say, can we not have vodka in the house though? Because vodka was the one liquor that I would drink. And he was fine with it. Now, if your husband is still drinking a lot, that might not be as easy to do. And so that might be the first situation where you have to kind of work on having difficult conversations. Trusting that open, honest communication is going to lead to somewhere worthwhile, even when it feels like really heavy and really nervous and makes you really afraid at first, okay? Just try to talk about how you're feeling from a place of like, you're not judging, you're not trying to convince your husband that he should quit drinking or do anything like that. Just being honest, saying, right now, it would really help me to not have X, Y, and Z in the house. Can we figure that out? Is there a way that we can do this? Or it might kind of look like saying, hey, an example, another thing that I did when I first quit, and actually this rule still just applies to today because I just really I can't stand the smell or the taste of alcohol, meaning that my husband knows that if he's been drinking, I'm not going to kiss him. Like, this might be a little bit TMI, but like, we're not going to be intimate anytime my husband has been drinking because I cannot stand the taste or the smell of it. And so he knows that. And he was okay with that. That was a boundary because that was me saying in the beginning, it was like, I'm trying not to drink anymore. So I don't want to taste it because I don't want to be tempted. And he respected that. And now he knows it's just a preference. I'm just like, it's not attractive to me. It doesn't appeal to me. So if he's going to drink, he knows that means I'm not going to kiss him and we're not going to be intimate. That's a boundary that worked for us. That's a boundary that was important to me. There might be different variations of that, right? For you guys. So the point is, be willing to be open and honest and ask for what you need in the moment, but also recognize that it's going to change you guys. That's another one of these things is that this part especially of your sober journey is going to evolve over time, okay? What if you could finally break free from the constant cycle of drinking, quitting, bargaining with yourself, and actually build a life that feels calm and clear and deeply aligned with who you want to be? I created the alcohol-free blueprint for women who are ready to stop trying to moderate and start feeling confident and steady and fully present in their life again. This program isn't just about quitting drinking. It's about taking back your energy and your mindset and your wellness and your freedom. Inside the blueprint, I'll walk you step by step through the tools, mindset shifts, and support systems that actually help you change for good. You'll learn how to handle cravings, rebuild your habits, feel stronger in your body, and navigate all of life's ups and downs without alcohol. And you'll have full access to over 45 video lessons, journaling prompts, live coaching, and community support. So you never have to do this alone. One of my clients, let's call her Sarah, came to me after years of trying to control her drinking. She told me, I finally feel free. I'm not constantly thinking about drinking anymore. I have energy again, and I actually like myself. And that's just the kind of change we're after. Most of my clients are excited to no longer be a drinker after just 30 days inside the blueprint. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and start living the life alcohol has been holding you back from, head to the link in the show notes or go find me over on Instagram. I would love to help you take this next step. So that goes back to something I said in the beginning, like just try to remember that. Don't get so worked up and so afraid of how heavy this might feel in the beginning, because it's not going to be like this all the time. So another thing you can do here is don't be afraid to ask for specific support if you can figure out what that looks like for you, right? Like, for example, I have a client who, again, her husband is more of a take it or leave it drinker. He does still drink at home from time to time. So there will be nights that he will still decide to have a glass of wine after dinner. She is okay with that because she's done the work and it does not interest her. But early on, she said to her husband, I don't mind if you do that, but please just don't ever even offer it to me anymore. Don't tempt me. I am like right now putting out a blanket statement. I do not want to drink anymore. So it's not like impolite for you to not offer me wine. I'm asking you, please do not offer me drinks. I do not want them. So that set a very clear boundary. It was a mutually agreed upon boundary that gave them both an understanding of what was needed and what was expected at that time, okay? Other things could be like asking for support that's going to help you avoid some of your triggers, right? So another example of this for me was early on in my first month, especially, let my family know that like dinner hour was going to become more of a team effort. And now my kids were older. My girls are teenagers, right? So this was easy for me to do. If you have small kids, it might have to look a little bit different. But like I switched to doing almost exclusively like crock pot meals. We did more takeout. We did more meal prep on the weekends because I had such a strong association with 4 p.m. is when I opened wine, started drinking wine, to spend like the next hour or two cleaning up the kitchen, making dinner, doing the whole dinner nighttime routine. I needed to break that association. So for me, that meant asking for support in the kitchen, telling my girls, there are going to be some nights now that you're just going to figure out dinner on your own. We're going to do like salad kits and a rotisserie chicken, or I'm putting dinner in the crock pot at 9 a.m. so that I'm not tempted by being in the kitchen for an hour from 4 to 5 p.m. because I knew that was a trigger for me. Now, I didn't have to keep that boundary or that request for support in place for a really long time. I just needed it in the beginning. So think about the ways that you can be clear and ask for support or put boundaries up that are going to help you right now without getting sucked into this like spiral of, oh my God, I have to change my whole entire life forever. No, you guys, this period lasts for a little bit of time. Okay. It doesn't last that long. So now let's talk about what this can look like if your husband is not the take it or leave it drinker. If your husband is the person that drinks a lot with you and or you also suspect or know he has his own level of a drinking problem like you do, but he's not ready to talk about it. Not ready to do something about it. Because maybe you have talked about it, right? Sometimes that's a situation. You both know that your drinking isn't serving you, but he's not ready to change and you are. Or maybe you know that his drinking is a problem because you have started to do work. You started to dig in. You can see now the patterns in behavior, the patterns in like health problems, all of that other stuff. But maybe he is just really staunchly like not interested. This is okay. You can still navigate this, but it's different, right? It's different than the version of the, take it or leave it husband that we just talked about. So what this could look like is if you bring up the topic of wanting to change your drinking, needing to change your drinking, your husband might get really defensive. Your husband might get kind of triggered and feel attacked because he may feel like you are telling him what to do, even if that's not exactly what you're doing. Okay. So the best way, my best advice for approaching this is to, first of all, even if it feels counterintuitive, because you're coming from a place of love, right? You're coming from a place of concern, but don't try to convert your husband. Don't try to get him to see what you've seen and want to make the changes that you want to make until he is ready to. One of the best things we can do when we're in a situation like this with a husband who is also a drinker probably to the level that we're a drinker, is to remember that we want to lead by example. This is going to be a lot more kind of like a slow burn, a passive, but still powerful, but a passive path to change, because you're going to want to lead by example. You're going to want to shine your light and hope that he sees it and catches on. Saying that I love that really, really applies to this is that you are going to want to choose your actions, choose your words, choose your behavior so that you can be a mirror for him, but not a megaphone. Because think about that. Think about somebody with a megaphone. Like, you're loud, you're overbearing, you're just like forcing your thoughts on everybody. How do most people respond when that's going on, right? They get defensive. They feel like, whoa, wait a second. I didn't ask for this. Like, why are you coming at me about my drinking? You guys, that usually almost always is not going to lead to the outcome that you want to have. So we need to really exercise a lot of patience here. And remember that our journey is for us. And then just put a lot of trust in the process and a lot of trust in the journey, and hope that by you going down the path that you're going to go down and modeling this change, modeling this new way of approaching your life, that you're going to be a light, that you're going to shine an example out that your husband is going to take notice of in his own time when he's ready. Okay. Because we want to remember that, and this can be really hard, but it's so, so key, you guys, is the people in our lives, especially our spouses, likely did not ask for this change. They did not ask for us to decide to change our drinking habits. And so they did not ask for all of the ways that this is going to ripple out to our social life, to our date nights, to our weekends away, to our, how we sit down at the end of every day. They didn't ask for this. So they might need more time than you think they should to adjust. And as long as you are being treated with respect, like as long as you're not dealing with any overt hostility or being bullied or gaslighting or anything like that from your husband or anybody else in your life, we need to extend people grace. We need to understand that they're not in our head. They don't know what our drinking has been like for us, so they don't really know why we're making this change. They didn't ask for this, so they're going to need some time to come to grips with it on their own. Whichever camp your husband falls into, that is going to be the case, right? Because even my husband, like I said, he's been nothing but supportive since the beginning. But because he can't relate to what my drinking was like and why I really have to be all or nothing and I chose nothing, there was, and sometimes still is, an adjustment period where he's still just like, I just don't get it. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why you can't just drink on weekends, or why we can't just go out for dinner and have one or two nice glasses of wine and leave it at that. So I say all this to remember that we can't control their journey any more than they can control ours, right? If we need time to figure this journey out for ourselves, the people that love us are going to need their own time to figure it out too, okay? How is this really going to affect your relationship? I feel like that is the $1 million question, right? Because at the crux of all of this is what we want to know. We get really afraid of what a big change like this could mean for our marriage, especially because alcohol has its hands in everything, right, you guys? Like I said, in my own marriage, I know in so many of yours, when we have these conversations, whether it's in my DMs or in my coaching groups, it is because you're like we go out with friends and we drink. We get together with our family and we drink. Every date night is drinking. Weekends away from the kids are drinking. When you met when you were younger, like I said, if you're like my husband and I, and we met in college or young adulthood, whatever, usually alcohol has been around for almost all of it. So it can be really nerve-wracking to think about, what is this going to look like now if we take alcohol out of this, okay? So all I can say, you guys, is that you're not going to know until you know. I mean, the obvious answer is that yes, this is going to change your relationship. That's probably not going to be a bad thing. It's just going to feel a little uncomfortable and a little weird for a while, like anything new does, right? Remind yourself of that. How many other new things has your marriage probably gone through that with enough time turned out to be fine, right? Like, you guys, this even applies to when we had kids. That was nerve-wracking and scary, right? Going from being a married couple to having a child is a huge change. It does not all feel great. But over time, it works itself out. And I think most of you, like me, figure out that over time, it brings us closer together, right? It's the evolution of our relationship. It's the natural course. It's a natural change. As we grow, as we mature, as the things that we want out of life grow and mature and change, our marriage adapts, okay? So this is just going to be another instance of that happening, okay? Because growth brings clarity, but growth takes time. And that's maybe the hardest thing for people, right? Because you want the answers right now. You want it to just be good right this second. And you guys, that's just not how life works. Hopefully that's not new information to you, but if it is, then that's okay. Then I say that with like a loving, gentle hug. But you guys, life is hard sometimes. There's ups and downs. Marriage is hard. There's ups and downs. And so quitting drinking might feel like a little bit of a going down, but it's going to come back up. You're going to get really clear on who you are and what you want. And it's going to create a new space for your marriage to grow. Now, sometimes it might go the other way. Nobody can predict that. Nobody knows. You're not going to know until you just try, though, right? And so just remind yourself that the discomfort that comes with this is usually really temporary. Like I said, these really heavy, acute, strong, intense emotions are like a hallmark of the early quitting days, okay? It's not always going to feel this way. I promise. Most people can't believe how much better they feel, how much more clarity, how much more like patience, and how much more perspective they have on things. Honestly, even just within a month or two, okay? So just remind yourself to like go slow and trust and be patient and don't get sucked into that like scary spiral about what this is going to mean for your marriage and the whole rest of your life. Just take it day by day. Like that's really why we take everything in sobriety one day at a time. Okay. So what can you do? What can you do to set yourself up for success, to foster like as much honesty and communication and make change a positive thing as much as possible in your marriage, okay? The first thing, you guys, is to really focus on communicating and to make sure that you are actually communicating and conversing and you're not like preaching or lecturing or being that person with a megaphone, right? And I know that can be hard sometimes, you guys, right? Like I am an educator by nature. I love knowledge. I love talking. Obviously, I've been a coach by training for almost 15 years now. So I often, when I learn new things and I'm really excited about it, I want to tell everybody about it. I had to really remember that that was not probably the best way to approach this with my husband, unless he asked, unless he was genuinely curious, okay? And there were times that that did happen, right? Like there were times when he actually did ask questions and I was like, you know what? I actually listened to a really great podcast on this. I'm going to send it to you. If you want to listen to it, great. And if you don't, that's fine too. But here's some more information. Communicating about how you're feeling, what you're going through, why you want to make this change for you, right? Because that's what helps so much. So we're not judging our husbands. We're not trying to project or criticize or make statements about their drinking and their life. We're keeping this focused on us. So it's communicating, saying, drinking is taking up so much time and space in my brain. I just don't want to do it anymore. It's being honest, saying, you know what? I've tried to moderate for years. It does not work for me. So I'm trying this instead. It can be the other basic things of like, you know what? My anxiety is getting a lot worse. I've learned how much alcohol impacts that. So I am choosing to not drink right now. It can be sleep. It can be our hormones. It can be anything. Communicating why this is important to us without preaching, without projecting onto your husband and his drinking issues, but just communicating what this means for you and why you're doing it. You can also make sure that you're asking for support. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it, unfortunately, you guys, but you can ask. Put those boundaries up where you need them. Communicate them clearly, calmly, and hopefully you'll be respected and get that need for support met and find those boundaries that you can both agree upon, right? Another really, really important thing, you guys, is to build your own support system. Like this is one of the reasons that being part of a sober community, putting yourself in proximity with other women that are trying to do what you're trying to do, that get where you're coming from, meaning they get that moderation doesn't work. They get how all-consuming alcohol can be and are trying to get out of it. Having that support system is key. It literally can make or break a journey. It did for me. I tried to quit on and off for 4 years and couldn't figure it out because I was trying to do it completely alone. And then the second I put myself in a sober coaching community is when everything changed. And dealing with husbands in our marriages is one of the big ways that that support can change the journey for you. Because when you are around people that get it, when you're around people that can understand and also hold you accountable, also cheer you on because they know what you're going through, it lessens the burden that we knowingly or unknowingly put on our spouses, right? So getting a sober coach, putting yourself in a community, even things like digging into your spirituality, your relationship with God, the universe, whatever that looks like for you. Understanding that you need your own support system, something that you can rely on that is independent from your spouse, makes it so much easier to extend your husband that grace and that time that they need, right? Like I said in the beginning, our spouses most of the time have not asked for this change. We can't control the time frame that they're going to need to get used to this new way of living. So when we have our own support system to rely on, that is a way that we are extending that grace and compassion to our husband, because we're not asking them to be our only source of support for this. That's not fair to do. It's not fair to them or to us, okay? One of the biggest takeaways, one of the biggest things that I hope you guys get from this conversation, and again, this is me being that loving, sober friend, telling you that you guys, you do not need your husband to change his relationship with alcohol for you to change. If you are prone to dip into a victim mindset or to make excuses, this is going to be a really big opportunity for you to break out of that cycle, that pattern that's holding you back. Because the truth of it is that your husband's choices do not equal yours. Your husband continuing to drink, whatever that looks like, whether he's a take it or leave it drinker or a problem drinker, does not determine what you do. The longer you try to make his choices an excuse, the longer you're going to stay stuck in your own relationship with alcohol, okay? And if that feels a little triggering, that's okay. You're being presented with a really big opportunity to grow and to change here for the better. Because that's the thing, you guys, you're allowed to grow. We're allowed to change. The only constant in life is change. We're privileged to continue to age and grow. Most things in life change as they get older. That's what we're doing here. You have an opportunity to do that, even if your husband doesn't come along with you on this journey. And just because it seems like he might not be coming with you right now doesn't mean that he won't down the road someday. But the point is that it actually doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. This journey needs to be for you. It's about you. It's for you. So I just want you guys to remember and really, really take heart and try to draw some peace from this truth, is that you guys, what feels really awkward and hard right now with you trying to quit drinking and your husband still drinking, it is not going to feel this way in a month. It might not even feel this way in 10 days. Like, you have no idea how quickly things can shift and change on this journey. Once we just stay focused on our power inside and keep doing what we need to do for ourselves and let the positive ripple effect happen, you don't know how that's going to impact your marriage and your husband's decisions, okay? Likely it is going to have a positive impact. My husband drinks way less now than he did before, which again helped me see clearly how much my drinking problem was impacting a relationship, because so often he drank simply because I wanted to. Once I quit drinking, he's like, no, I don't feel the need to drink at home most nights. I don't feel the need to drink at home even on weekends. He only ever drinks now if we're around other people. And even that has been cut back severely. And I'm not saying that that's going to be your experience, but the whole point is you don't know what positive effect this could have on the people around you, okay? But remember that that's just icing on the cake if and when it happens. Give yourself time for this change to take place and for it to flourish and for it to get stronger roots inside of you, and just trust that you're going to be able to navigate whatever comes up in your marriage, okay? Give yourself grace, give your spouse grace too. Just stay committed to what you know is best for you, and just trust that it's all going to work out exactly the way that it's supposed to. Because it does, you guys. It always does. We can't predict what that means. We can't always predict what working out means, but just trust that it is going to work out. Okay, I would love to know how this conversation landed for you. And I've been thinking for a while now that I probably need to have Matt on the podcast so that we can go even deeper into this conversation and get, the husband's point of view. So I would love to hear if that's something you guys are interested in. Drop a note in the comments below. Find me over on Instagram. Send me a DM. I love the messages I get from you guys. It just, like I've said every week, I'm just so blown away to hear the impact that this is having on your guys' life. I'm just so, so grateful that it's landing and it's resonating. So if this topic especially hit for you, I would love to hear how. If you're interested in me having my husband on the podcast sometime in the future, let me know that and I'll wrangle him on here. I think that would be a really enlightening conversation to have. But as always, thank you guys for hanging out. I appreciate it. I will be back next week with another chat. So have a good one, you guys. That's it for today's episode. If this conversation resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. And if you're loving the show, I'd be so grateful if you'd leave a quick review. It helps others find this message and start their own journey to freedom. Until next time, keep choosing yourself, keep believing in what's possible, and remember, you are so much stronger than you think.